Welcome back to Veteran Nation. We have not been live in a couple weeks, and I do apologize if you like the live show. We're doing some things behind the scenes, trying to make some things better for the show. We're trying to get some good guests, some good resources for you, but it's more geared towards content, especially for those of you who are our subscribers. Let me first say that if you could please go to nrnplus.com/VN, subscribe to our page. We're doing some good things. I don't want to jump ahead, but we're going to be doing some things with some military books. So that's very exciting. Maybe getting some more authors onto the show. So that's going to be really cool. But we're really trying to feel around and see what you, the viewer, want. So subscribe to us or go into some of the places that we know where we are, and definitely talk to us and let us know what are the type of things that you want to see. With today's show, we're just going to go through some news bits. There's a lot of news out there. I don't want to get into politics too far. Ken decided to join us. I don't want to get too much into politics because I know everyone is out there talking about the election. It's something that you just can't run away from. So I'm just going to kind of avoid it a little bit. There's a little bit of it in these stories because it's the military and government and whatnot. But we're not going to get too far into it. Now, these are all laid out. These are things that the military puts out for people. So it's not my layout. We're just going to go through these stories, talk a little bit about them, give some opinion about them. Hopefully, it's things that it's all military stuff, so it should be things near and dear to all the veterans out there. Anything you don't like or anything you think, my opinion is jacked up on, let me know. I'm on Twitter. I'm in the Facebook group. You can also, send us messages. I believe through the subscribers page. We want to hear from you. We want to do the things that you guys. We want to talk about the stuff that's important to you. So, with that being said, as I drink my lemonade, it's a little bit hot out here in the desert today. The first story is about the Chief of Naval Operations. A lot of stuff was hitting the news this week about the Navy. They're looking at the future of the Navy, and with this one, the Navy is moving fast to figure out how to connect crewed ships, submarines, and aircraft with the hundreds of new unmanned ships it plans to build. The Chief of Naval Operations is calling for a plan by December. Beyond recapitalizing our undersea deterrent, there is no higher developmental priority in the U.S. Navy than linking those manned assets to the fleet, allowing them to share intelligence and targeting information. Gilderay wrote in an October 1st memo obtained by Breaking Defense. The order came from Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Michael Gilday. The admiral tasked with spearheaded the effort. It's dubbed Project Overwatch. It comes as the service prepares to unveil new shipbuilding plans. That plan could include more than 200 manned ships armed with precision weapons and advanced sensor systems. So I'm really looking forward to what the Chief of Naval Operations has in store. I don't know about any of you all. I find it all very interesting. I like when it comes to big Navy planning, I find it fascinating, especially if you go all the way back to really post-Civil War days. That's how Teddy Roosevelt, it's not how he first came into prominence. He was in New York City, came into prominence there, but he really did a great job advancing the U.S. Navy when he was the Secretary of the Navy. There's been a lot of really good people who've done that. When we moved to a nuclear Navy, that was a big part of this, a big part of how strong the U.S. Navy is. I hope to see a strong Navy. Really, in these stories, the biggest thing that I take away is that we're going to have unmanned ships. For me as a Marine, I really hope some of these ships end up being ship-to-shore capability, because the Marine Corps, we talk all the time about amphibious operations. We plan for it. I know the Marine Corps is changing. but I don't think the Marine Corps will ever get away from our amphibious roots. So I'm kind of happy to hear about some of these things. So this next one is with that the Navy's top officer has former surface warfare officer turned engineering duty officer to create a powerful, all-connected network service. Leaders believe they will need to fight and win against a high-end foe such as China. Now, there's going to be a theme as I go through these stories, and I just want you to listen and take it in, because high-end foe, we're talking about technology. We've done stories on here about the Navy's technology. That's going to be very key the next time two superpowers fight. It's going to be a high-tech war. So a lot of this stuff, I'm glad to see that we're doing. China's been doing it for a couple of years. Russia's been doing it. So I'm really glad to see that the Navy is pushing it very hard. It goes along with a lot of other stuff we saw, like Space Force. Very high-end. We're moving into new areas of operation in warfare. So this is where the next fight is going to be going. And they laid out priorities for the DDG next warship. And it's a new attack submarine, tentatively dubbed DDG next by Gilroy. The new class of large surface combatants would start with existing systems on current ships or in development for Burke Flight 3s on new hull form that would allow the Navy to add capabilities over the life of the ship. So, okay, I think I said it was a submarine. It's a surface ship. But it looks like it's going to integrate with our other ones, which is really great for fleet planning. I did my stuff with logistics. I'll tell you, when I've talked with naval officers, when they talk about fleet, stuff, it's really interesting. So for our Navy brethren out there, you definitely get my attention and my interest. This next one, these are all linked, all these stories, but this next one is talking about the unmanned vessels plan for the Navy's future fleet plan, which will help fill in gaps in intelligence, surface reconnaissance, and targeting. The greatest thing about this is we're talking stuff that's going to be very quiet and really just give us some more capabilities, let us know what the enemy's doing, be able to, as we used to call in the Marine Corps, snoop and poop, be able to get down in those areas where we normally can't get troops or where we don't want them to know. So a lot of good things on the Navy's radar, some really cool stuff. It'll be probably another 5 years before we see any of this stuff, but it's exciting. The great power competition. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on troops to pull all their minds and energy in preparing for war in a visit to a U.S. military base in the southern province of Guangdong on Tuesday, according to state news agency Xinhua. During an inspection of the People's Liberation Army Marine Corps in Chaozhou City, Xinhua said Xi told him soldiers to maintain a high state of alert and called on them to be absolutely loyal, absolutely pure, and absolutely reliable. I'm looking through to see, a lot of these things. Really, China is, I told you there's going to be themes. China's going to be a big theme in all these stories, because China is really, when it comes to superpowers, it's us and China right now. I know a lot of people are concerned about Russia. Russia has a lot of things going against it, whereas China has a lot of things going forward. And China really, as you'll see, is kind of being a little bit hostile. And they have been for the last couple of years. In the city where China opened its economy, Xi preaches self-reliance. It was on the anniversary pilgrimage of the southern city of Shenzhen, which in 1980 was established as a special economic zone next to the global financial hub of Hong Kong. Shenzhen quickly became an incubator for reform and opening up, the strategy championed by the Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping that paved the way for the country's decades-long economic takeoff. So that's what you can see with China. They're always looking forward. this is just more of that story. Now, here's where everything starts to link. China says U.S. undermines Taiwan Strait stability. China said on Thursday the United States was seriously undermining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait after the U.S. Navy destroyer sailed through waters amid escalating tensions between Beijing and Taipei. Zhang Chunhui, spokesman for China's Eastern Theater Command, said in a statement that the Chinese military followed and monitored the USS Berry when the destroyer made what the U.S. Navy called a routine Taiwan Strait transit on Wednesday. China is very protective of its waters and also very aggressive towards any land in the South China Sea that it disputes. There are many islands that China hasn't inhabited for centuries that other countries have. It's very interesting to me that, when you, for instance, I talked about Vietnam veterans who have gone back to Vietnam. They're not viewed as the enemy. The Vietnamese very much see China as their enemy because they fought a war in the late 70s after the U.S. had already pulled out, and they compete still today. And there's a lot of tensions there. And it's not just China, it's not just Vietnam, it's Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Cambodia. A lot of those countries, they see China as a potential invader. The good thing about that for us, we then are the nice guys that they want to do business with and they want as a deterrent. Now, that doesn't mean we have to put troops there. It just means that, hey, as we're doing different foreign military aid cases and stuff like that, we have to work to make them partners, especially good economic partners. So, yeah, that one. Russia approves second inoculation. So Russia had its COVID vaccine, and they're now going to do a second round of it. Some people believe it, some people don't. Russia became the first country to approve a COVID-19 vaccine in August, despite skepticism from scientists and Western politicians over the speed of which it was developed. Sputnik 5, as it was called, received conditional emergency approval after being tested on only 76 subjects. Russian scientists have since released positive data from early studies and embarked on large-scale trials known as Phase 3. Mr. Putin told a cabinet meeting the country must now increase production of its first and second vaccines. I am not seeing, they don't have any quotes in here from anyone in the U.S. So I would be interested in hearing what some doctors and researchers really think about this. Last time around, they did not believe it. They thought it was a bunch of BS. So it'll be interesting to see how the U.S., well, just the West in general, responds to this. Also with Russia, Russia denies New START gentleman's agreement with the U.S. Russia is rejecting U.S. claims as two sides to reach an agreement in principle to extend New START, the last remaining arms control agreement, casting doubt that there will be an 11th-hour deal before the U.S. elections November 3rd. I'm not surprised about that. The Russians, they sit back and wait to see what's going to go on. They don't want to commit too early. They like those chess pieces. Russians love their chess. So hours after a U.S. arms control envoy, Marshall Billingsley, said Tuesday, a gentleman's agreement has been reached at the highest levels to freeze U.S. and Russian nuclear arsenals and extend the New START for an unspecified period. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov contradicted him, saying the U.S. proposal was unacceptable to Moscow. So sometimes you hear this, sometimes those agreements are done in back deals, but to save face, Russia, China, a lot of these type of countries that that subscribe to that Asiatic. It's not. I'm trying to figure the term. It's Asiatic, not dictatorship, but like Asiatic control. They prefer strong, centralized leaders and have been ever. I think that even predates the Mongol invasions of Genghis Khan. Some other things here. Pompeo defends 12 Hong Kongers detained by China. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo defended the 12 Hong Kong residents who were detained by China while allegedly trying to flee to Taiwan by boat in August, saying that they had committed no crime. They simply believe they are worthy of freedom and the unalienable rights due to every person, Pompeo said, virtual remarks delivered at the John F. McCain Freedom Award ceremony on Wednesday. They aren't alone on that belief. America stands with them. The 12, some of whom who are linked to the anti-government protests, were facing charges in Hong Kong prior to their arrest, but are being held in the southern city of Shenzhen, where they await prosecution. 2 of them are suspected of organizing an illegal border crossing, while the other 10 are suspected of entering the mainland waters illegally. The group was believed to be headed for self-governed Taiwan, where they were arrested following China's imposition of sweeping national security law targeting political expression in semi-autonomous Hong Kong. Well, let's face facts. Hong Kong is no longer semi-autonomous since what they did last year and the beginning of this year. It is now 100% controlled by China. There's no moving on from that. So, again, seeing a lot of stories of China, a lot of things happening there, a lot of people internally trying to escape. The EU preparing sanctions on Putin's allies over Navalny's poisoning. European Union is preparing to impose financial sanctions on 6 high-ranking Russian officials from the Defense Ministry, Domestic Spy Service, and the Kremlin who are believed to have been involved in the poisoning of Alexei A. Navalny, the prominent Russian opposition leader. The individuals who face assets freezes, travel bans, and the European Union are believed to have a direct knowledge of the poisoning or involved in the planning. You know, this is just one of those things. Again, go back to that Asiatic. It's not hegemony. I'll think of the term as soon as I'm done. I feel like an idiot that I'm not thinking of it right now. But they respond to that strong central leadership, and opponents cannot be entertained. They have to be slapped down, or in this case, poisoned. It's very much the way they do things. And, you know, not much we can do. We can condemn it, but I mean, we could. I don't think sanctions are rated for something like that. The UN wants to do sanctions. If the UN does, great. But as far as the U.S. goes, I don't see that as helping us in any way. So who knows? Gonna get that lemonade. It's getting too hot here. U.S. names coordinator on Tibet amid tensions with China. Yeah. So the USS Barry going through made other news. Really, on October 9th, another destroyer, the USS John S. McCain, asserted navigational rights and freedoms in the South China Sea near the Paracel Islands, a 7th Fleet spokesman. So I'm very glad to see the U.S. Navy and the U.S. military take a more confrontational role with China in the South China Sea. It's what our partners really want. It's really, I think, in our best interest, because if not, China will just keep trying to spread and try to control other governments. And here's an example. Under international law, all vessels, including warships, enjoy the right of innocent passage to territorial seas. By engaging in innocent passage without giving prior notification to or asking permission from any of the claimants, the United States challenged unlawful restrictions imposed by China, Taiwan, and Vietnam in waters near the Paracels Mountains, it said. International law does not permit continental states like China to establish baselines, coastlines from which sea territories limits are measured around the entire dispersed island groups, she added. Just like we can't tell people, no, you can't go between Hawaii and California. That's ridiculous. Same thing here. They can go through. The littoral combat ship USS Gabriel Giffords on anti-drug patrols in Southcom. That's a pretty common thing there. Let's see. Another week, another spate of 9-month ship deployments. been a record-breaking year for some U.S. Navy ships, although some sailors and families may have preferred to not be at the forefront of such feats. Various vessels have eclipsed one another in breaking Navy records for continuous days at sea this year, as the threat of COVID has scuttled port calls, and some naval deployments have stretched beyond the structures of the Navy's optimized fleet response plan. Let's see. I actually think this is a good thing. More ships out there, more people on sea duty, I think is a good thing. I really am. Last several years, I've been very much. I thought it was a good thing for us to stand up more ships at Guam. Hawaii, Guam, and Diego Garcia are kind of like that triangle. And we need strong competition with China. Also, we have our bases in Japan and South Korea, which will be very instrumental in that. So it'll be good to have more ships at sea. The Marines fired the commander after the training accident that killed 9. Okay, so the service members drowned after their amphibious assault vehicle sank during training on San Clemente Island. Lieutenant General Carson S. Hackle, commanding general, 1 Marine Expeditionary Force, relieved Lieutenant Colonel Michael J. Regner, training officer, battalion landing team, 1st Battalion, 4th Marine Regiment, 15th Marine, 15th MEO. Hackle relieved Regner due to a loss in trust and confidence in abilities to command as a result of the assault amphibious vehicle mishap that took place up the coast of South California. This is actually the 2nd AAB battalion commander I know that's been relieved this year. 3rd AAB's commander was relieved as well for not allowing Marines to go to mental health. With this one, this is off the AAB that sank. Now, here's my thing on this. All those vehicles, they're all pre-1970. These are not new vehicles. These are, these are Cold War, pre-Vietnam vehicles, most of these. So, this goes back in the 2010 era. Congress killed the expeditionary fighting vehicle. And the problem with that is that it's cost overruns and all this stuff. The problem is we still need the capability. We still have to move ship for shore. So now we're doing it with old stuff. And guess what? This old stuff, killing Marines. That's the problem with that. When Congress, you think they're doing a good job, we spent all that money already. We didn't get anything out of it because we killed the program. And they killed it because it didn't have a V-shaped hull. If you go back and read the stories on the EFE, and you'll see Congress people talking about, it doesn't have a V-shaped hull to protect against IEDs. We need something to move from the ship to the shore. There's not many IEDs in that area. I don't think we need the V-shaped hull. Now, if you're talking about, if you really think that we're going to have underwater mines, okay, let's have that discussion. But these vehicles, I think, if I recall correctly, the height on them is 9 foot tall. So we're not talking about a big displacement of water there. So maybe less than 5 feet. So with these vehicles, they're getting more and more dangerous. Yeah, we know them like the back of our hand, but we really need new equipment. If I can tell anything, if the Commandant of the Marine Corps wants to look at this, please get us new ships or new vehicles so that we can not only move ship to shore, but the Navy's moving further away from the shore. So we have to do it faster because right now, when we do an amphibious landing, those vehicles will be sitting ducks out there in the water, moving as slow as what these AAVs do. I think on a good day they get 15 knots, not very fast at all. Now I will preface this with one thing: the Navy built the LCACs, and they built those just before they killed the EFE. They were coming online. The Navy was very proactive, but they said, that's it, we're done. With the LCACs, that's our solution. The Marine Corps is still kicking that can down. And you know what? It's just going to take someone in Congress or someone in the Marine Corps to say, you know what? Let's be done with this. It's killing Marines. We need a ship. Get us this ship. How fast can we get it? Looking through these stories here. Are the U.S. and Marine Corps competing for missions in the Pacific? While the U.S. military locked in on what it sees as a long-term competition with the People's Republic of China for ascendancy in the Indo-Pacific region, two services seeking to pivot away from heavy ground conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan are looking towards missiles as a ticket to relevance in a potential future conflict. The U.S. Marine Corps and U.S. Army are both working towards fielding long-range strike and anti-ship missiles to help hold Chinese targets at risk within the first and second island chains. Both have talked about putting supplies to air forces forward to be able to rapidly respond to a crisis. Both are actively discussing sacrificing older equipment and upgrades for current equipment to help pay for the modernization they need. The expectation the Pentagon, however, is that the military will see flat defense budgets as best going forward. Some defense watchers argue the limited resources gets the funding may depend on whose concepts carry the most weight among defense planners. Others, however, believe a potential China problem is big enough that there are plenty of missions to go around. I'm in that group right there. Previously, long-range strike was the domain of the Navy and Air Force from carriers. Vertical launch missile tubes on submarines and surface combatants from land-based fighters and bombers, but the demise of the intermediate-range nuclear forces treaty has opened up long-range ground-based fighters as a means of countering China's capability in that area. Let's see. Looking to see if there's anything else interesting in this story. I don't think it's going to be an Army or Marine Corps thing. I think there's going to be more than enough for everyone to get their hand in the fight, which I find this story interesting now that the Marine Corps has gotten rid of tanks. They've gotten rid of all their tanks and gave them to the Army. So, okay, first off, you're giving up a capability to another service. So how is that going to affect here? That's one thing. The second thing is, are you going to focus on another capability? That's really what we're looking for. And other than amphibious operations, I don't see it from the Marine Corps. Coming from a Marine myself as a Marine. Okay, so we're going to move off on a lot of the China stuff. This one here, these next several ones are about Middle East peace. Remember, I told you themes. Watch the themes. We got China, now we're here. Lebanon, Israel talks on seaboard begin with U.S. as mediator. Lebanon and Israel kicked off their first negotiations in 30 years on non-security issues aiming to end long-running dispute over their maritime border in the gas-rich Mediterranean Sea. So interesting, because Beirut, Lebanon, pretty much run by Syria. Syria pretty much is told what to do by Iran. I know a lot of people think Russia, they get stuff from Russia. They don't really listen to Russia. Like, if Russia told, hey, go invade, they're not doing it. Iran, they're going to say, okay, well, what are you going to give us to do that? But the fact that they are talking is, this all comes from the U.S. peace agreements with Bahrain and the UAE. What we are now doing is we are isolating Iran. We have those two countries. Jordan's already on board. They have not had any issues with Israel since probably the mid 70s, since the early 70s when they backed off, and that's what's kicked off the whole Black September movement. For those of you who watched the movie Munich. So, yeah, we are now starting to see isolation of Iran take hold. Now, do I think Lebanon is going to completely do that? No, but I think we're going to start seeing more normalization of diplomatic relations. And I'm looking at what this says here. Just the fact that they're going to have some respect towards each other's naval borders is going to be really huge in that area. Another Middle East story, 2 U.S. hostages freed from Yemen in prisoner swap. Again, this is two Americans held hostage by Iran-backed Houthi militants in Yemen were freed on Wednesday as part of a U.S.-backed trade that returned more than 200 of the group's loyalists to the fractured Middle East country, according to U.S. and Saudi officials. Again, you're seeing these moves. This is not Iran or an Iran-backed state operating from a position of power. They're operating from a position of weakness because the U.S. now, with these new Israeli peace deals, it has strengthened U.S. Diplomatic ties within the area. We've been very close to Israel for years. We're now getting closer to the Saudis, closer to the UAE, closer to Bahrain, and really you're just going to see this Cold War play out in the Middle East, and Iran is they're taking their lumps on it so far. Hijacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz does not do you any long-term goals. U.S. is pleased to see Iraq do more to protect the U.S. Embassy. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said on Wednesday the U.S. was pleased that the Iraqi government was doing more to protect the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad from Iran-backed Shiite Muslim militias, but declined to provide an update on whether Washington was still considering to shut down embassies. Washington, which is slowly reducing its 5,000 troops in Iraq, threatened last month to shut its embassy unless the Iraqi government reins in the Iraq-aligned militias that have attacked U.S. interests. You have a lot of people in the Iraqi government who very much align with Iran. So the fact that we can say this and it happens is huge. For a long time, we would say stuff like this and nothing was happening. But I think a lot of that, the strike that we did in Iraq, what's the name of the general thing came out, was huge towards this type of stuff. These other 2 stories, these are COVID stories still in the Middle East. Everyone knows about COVID. Virtual school and the DoD education system. New Pentagon handbook adds confusion and frustration. Okay. New Pentagon handbook adds confusion and frustration for transgender troops, critics say. Okay, this is something I've been saying for a while. As you make these big decisions about transgender troops, about women in combat, way back in the way we repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. When you make these decisions at the higher levels, you have to give guidance to your lower levels, and it's got to be much more than this. You have to put things in place. You have to tell people what the standard you want to adhere to, because people will rise and fall to the standard that you set. And so much about this stuff, like as Vice President of Sparta, an advocacy and peer networking group from transgender service members and veterans, said it's hard to fully appreciate the fact that she is one of the so-called lucky ones who came out under the President Barack Obama's pro-transgender policy. Before the Pentagon's current transgender policy took effect in 2019, transgender troops had been allowed to serve openly since June of 2016 when the Obama administration lifted a previous ban. So, but the thing is, no guidance on either side. 2016, 2019, the guidance was very lacking. You have to, because this is going to affect people. This is going to affect leaders, how they lead. This is going to affect the people, how they're going to be led. You have to give that guidance and say, okay, here's the expectation. And if not, you're letting leaders figure it out for themselves, which I don't think that's a smart thing to begin with. Military leaders' goal of staying out of politics growing more challenging. This is all social media right here. Pentagon leaders face new challenges in their attempt to steer clear of the divisive electric politics this week as events during the final sprint towards the November 3rd polls underscore the potential for the military to be thrust once more into the partisan fray. The issues include a new online campaign ad featuring President Trump in the White House Situation Room, filed by Army General Mike A. Milley, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, in defiance of norms, excluding uniform leaders from campaign material, and criticism from Democratic lawmakers, highlighting Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper's handling of concerns about possible military involvement. I'm just going to look. There's other issues too, like we've got several retired generals who are jumping into the fray, and it makes it very hard. Here's the biggest thing: don't do it in uniform. If you are a junior leader, whatever your politics are, don't do it in uniform. We've seen already some of that with a couple viral videos. It's never going to end up well. Now I'm sure the general, he was probably not discussed about the photo. Really, it's nothing different than the Obama photo of when they showed Obama sitting in the Situation Room. I look at it as the exact same. I really don't think it's a big deal because it's not those individuals giving their opinion. And like I said, Joe Biden could use that exact same photo. To me, it all comes on the wash with those. It's a much more bigger deal when you have junior troops who are making their own decisions on politics and doing it in uniform. That's the big problem right there. Excuse me. And also, I want to add one thing to that. If you're a veteran, yeah, we still have our old uniforms. Don't wear your uniform. If you want to wear the veteran's hat, or if you're a motorcycle rider and you're going to wear a military group cut, by all means, put all your medals and stuff there. Don't wear the uniform. It's sacred to us. Don't defile the uniform that so many of our brothers and sisters have died wearing, because they didn't get a chance to give their opinions. Okay, so this story here, allies and partners, talking about maintaining U.S. troops in South Korea would ensure stable stationing. Really, I think, because the next story is about South Korean-U.S. alliance. With all this stuff, I think that in the coming years, you're going to see less U.S. forces permanently stationed in a lot of these places, but I think you'll see more temporary bases kind of spring up. I don't see that Cold War thing of people going to Germany and saying, I think that's going to shrink. Same thing with South Korea, same thing with Japan. But like I said, we have Guam, Diego Garcia. Those are the places I can see getting bigger. Washington opens door to Indonesian and shunned. For 2 decades, Prabowo Subianto, a former Indonesian general, was a pariah in international affairs. And excuse me if I screw up his name. Mr. Prabowo, one son-in-law of dictator Suharto, who died in 2008, and a past commander of Indonesia's feared special forces, was blamed for atrocities committed by troops he had led under Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. He was prohibited from visiting the United States, but now Mr. Prabowo is Indonesia's Minister of Defense, and the ban has been lifted. The invitation to Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper, Mr. Prabowo, arrived in Washington this week and is expected to meet with top officials at the Pentagon on Thursday. If they're a position of influence, unfortunately, we got to talk to them, whether or not you think he's a bad guy or not. Not talking actually kind of limits you, unless if you're doing it to, hey, we're going to talk only if these things are met. Only then is it from a position of strength. So, finally we'll be talking with him. Japan unveils new submarine. So Japan, after years, they've been building up their armed forces again. I don't think that's a big story. Most people might not know about it. Trump faced pre-election foreign policy speech that reveals plans to pull more troops from Afghanistan. Again, I don't see any problem with this. The plan will be to drop to 4,500 U.S. troops in Afghanistan, and said the decision to go 3,000 or fewer by early 2021 has been made. I look at that as a good thing. Having been to Afghanistan, I just don't see. I think we've taken it as far as we can, and unless if we're gonna spend billions of dollars creating an infrastructure there, I don't see it as working. There's one road in Afghanistan. Until we build more, I don't see much happening there. I think we can do more diplomatically than we can do militarily. So to me, that's a good thing. Get them out of there. We're not going to pay for the infrastructure. We could probably get more by giving them aid to build infrastructure themselves. Let them build it. We've done quite a bit. Second Lady Karen Pence visits Pensacola dressed as military spouses. She met with military spouses and viewed Blue Angels demonstration in Pensacola on Wednesday. She spoke for 20 minutes, highlighting the way she says the White House is working to help military families or those she called home front heroes. Her main focus on the unique employment challenges for military spouses face and solutions for them. Ms. Pence said it's important that the government help cut the red tape so that spouses can continue their careers even as they move state by state every few years. Some of these resources include the My Career Advancement Account Scholarship, and the good thing about that is for licenses, certifications, and associate degrees. She also says she is working with several states, including Florida, helping spouses retrain occupational licenses so they don't have to renew every time they move. That's a big one right there. That's talk about burying the lead, because there's a lot of military spouses who do babysitting. There's a lot who are teachers. I'm trying to think. I do know there's a couple other things that they have to go back and go through all this red tape for their licenses. That's a really big part of that. So I hope to see some hope to see some things like that for our military spouses. I'm not going to say ladies because we have a lot of military spouses who are men. So in fact, a very good friend of mine is a military. Well, actually, not two of them, military spouses, both men. So whoever is the one keeping it at home, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Hopefully, we can get you some more help. Personal readiness. Christie, domestic violence in the military is underreported. Cases not handled consistently. Yes. This is 100%. Danny Sanchez thought she'd met her Prince Charming when she began dating a U.S. Navy sailor who was stationed in Norfolk. He swept me off my feet. He said all the right things. He did all the right things. He got me up in a way I hadn't before. What began as a whirlwind romance in January 2016 quickly turned toxic after the couple found out they were expecting a baby in the spring. Everything changed. We were constantly fighting, constant anger, animosity between us, calling us names, saying horrible things to me. The problem with this, the military gets involved in marriages. It does. Anyone who disagrees, I will show you that you're wrong. The problem with getting involved, you just took a messy situation and made it way more messier. I've had plenty of Marines who had domestic issues, and my thing was, look, we can take it to this point right here. Beyond that, let it go, because all we're doing at that point is hurting people, hurting careers. Like, order them to go to the counseling sessions, order them to go to the schools. That's fine, but don't start picking sides. And a lot of times, unfortunately, commands start doing that. I could tell you several stories about people that dealt with these type of issues. It's very, very personal to me. Here's what you need to know about the new Army and Navy National Museums. You can always count on a healthy rivalry between Army and Navy, even when it comes to sharing updates on museums, honoring their respective services on the same day. On Tuesday, the Army announced It is poised to open the National Museum of the United States Army next month on Veterans Day, November 11th, while the Navy plans to open its new National Museum of U.S. Navy in the nation's capital. For the Army, the new museum is the first of its kind, detailing the service's complete history dating back to 1775. It is located publicly accessible area of Fort Belvoir in Virginia. Historical, where's the Navy one? Meanwhile, Navy Secretary Kenneth Braithwaite also announced on October 13th that a campus-style museum honoring the service history is now in the works. Final construction installation is slated for 2025 to coincide with the Navy's 250th birthday. We just had a Navy birthday the other day. Hey, happy birthday to all you sailors, by the way. We also had the Air Force birthday last month. Happy birthday to our airmen. Looking here. So, yeah, the cool thing is I like museums. I really like military history. So, if Fort Belvoir is right outside of DC. So, pretty much if you're planning on going to DC, definitely plan for the Army one. The Navy one's going to come in a couple of years. The Marine Corps one is probably, 20-minute to half-hour drive south. I recommend that one too. That one's great. So, a lot of good museums. I don't know if the Air Force has one, but I hope if they don't, I hope they get one. If they do, send me the stuff on it because I'd be very interested in looking at it. Navy reviews its no-shave waiver policy after feedback from diversity task force. The Navy is reviewing a policy that did away with permanent shaving waivers for sailors diagnosed with razor bumps after receiving feedback through recent diversity and inclusion initiatives. Chief of Naval Operations said Tuesday in an interview with Defense One. The Navy, under Admiral Mike Gilday's leadership, halted the waivers, often referred to as no-shave checks. On October 4th, 2009, following a series of reviews by the Naval Safety Center, they said the beard hair phase posed a safety risk for face seals on breathing devices such as respirators. Beards are typically not allowed in the service except for religious and medical exemptions. Razor bumps, also known as pseudofoculatus barbae, occur prominently in African Americans, according to the Navy. They occur when curly beard hair curves back into the skin after shaving. It's something that we're taking a look at with the Inclusion Diversity Task Force. I actually think beards will probably help them in recruiting. Is there some way that they can do it where they can keep it short, just like haircuts? I don't know. Beards are actually kind of important to the Navy too. The naval history, yeah, beards were big deals. You didn't get that windburn. They banned beards back in 1984 during the Reagan administration. It was not a popular move. Beards for the Navy is kind of like tattoos for the Marine Corps. It's a very touchy subject. I'm not opposed to them. All of our veteran beards, go ahead. I'm sure I'm going to get emails from sailors about that one. So if you're mad, I'm sorry. Just giving a personal opinion. Doesn't bother me. Yeah, I think that they do have a good thing about the getting a seal, but I also do know there's ways to work around that. Plenty of people work wearing masks in construction, other industries with beards. Plenty of people do. So there is a way to make things happen. Too many ships could swamp America's Navy. This is just about how the Navy ships. As long as it's strong Navy, I don't care how many ships there are, because sometimes smaller is better. I'm not going to talk about the strategic importance. As long as it's able to be, as long as the military can keep it sufficient and keep it at a high state of readiness. That's what I'm looking at. What are the capabilities that they give us, and how strong does that make us? End of the Pentagon's OCO slush fund. When the global war on terror began less than a month after September 11, 2001, the Congress created the Overseas Contingency Operations Account as a one-time supplemental appropriation to the budget. This is just about money stuff, and a lot of people don't understand how money works. You know, they were like, oh, the Pentagon lost money before 9/11. They didn't lose money. They just couldn't fully account for it. They didn't have receipts. The money wasn't lost. It changed hands. We didn't lose it. It was spent. It was spent on military stuff. They just didn't do a good job accounting for it. So never confuse accounting errors as theft. It can still be fraud. It still can be waste. It still can be abuse. So definitely stuff that IGs are into. But you hear people say, "Oh, they lost the money." They didn't lose it. Just can't account for it. All it means. It's like when you tell your wife, "Hey, I spent money today. I don't have the receipt." You know, and you're gonna get talking to. That's really all this. Yeah, that's pretty much all. It's just like, is Germany turning against Russia? Past few weeks, Germany has helped to rescue Russia's main opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, and accused Moscow of poisoning him. Again, good. Yeah, it's about the same time some of these other countries step up and start saying what they really think to a couple of these other countries. We're not the only big boys on the block. There are others, and you know what? We should not be the only ones doing a lot of this stuff. So I'm glad to see Germany. Germany likes to talk. They do. So I'm very happy to see what they're doing. That's all the stories we had, Kay. Are you happy? This cat is just such a personality. But this was a little bit different of a veteran nation. Doing a lot of news. I think it's good to keep us informed in a lot of the news. We're going to be doing some really fun things. I'm trying to get Joseph back in here so that me, him, and we're going to try to get another veteran that we know, and we're going to talk some what if stuff. We're still going to be doing resources. We're actually trying to get more people in here. It's just we're jumbling things around a little bit in terms of time, what time works best. So please be patient with us. But again, if there's people that you want to see issues that we are going to talk about. Also, when we do live shows, please come into YouTube and to Periscope and give your comments, because you can give live comments there. So we really like being able to see those. Other than that, this has been a great episode. Happy to do some different things. I know it's a pleasure me to come into your homes and talk to you every week, and the same thing with Kang here. Kang, are you happy? All right, everyone, you have a great day.